Chapter 3. Comparison of Indian constitutional schemes with other countries. A constitution of a country needs to reinvent itself to keep pace with the global changes. These global changes help in strengthening of principles and values of the Constitution. Hence, comparative analysis is important for understanding the core principles, structure and evolution of Indian Constitution. Introduction. Various political systems prevalent across the world are explained below. Dictatorship is a form of government in which the ruler is an absolute king who is not restricted by a constitution or laws or opposition from the people. Democracy is the government by the people, exercised either directly or through elected representatives. Republic is slightly different from a democracy. It is a government in which supreme power resides in a body of citizens entitled to vote and is exercised by elected officers and representatives responsible to them and governed according to law. Black circle anarchy is the absence of government, the state of society where there is no law or supreme power, a state of lawlessness, political confusion. Salient features of the constitutions of various countries. United States of America. The United States of America is a federal republic consisting of 50 states and a federal district. Main features of its constitution are as follows. President is the head of state and the head of the government. It is a federal state that emerged from an initial agreement between a number of separate states. (42) General Studies, Mains, Paper 2. France. In the United States, the Constitution is king. Only laws passed through the mechanisms established by the Constitution are valid. Furthermore, any law that is inconsistent with the limitations, structures or principles established by the Constitution is considered, by definition, invalid. Another prominent feature of the U.S. Constitution is its scheme of separated powers. In USA, executive is separated from the legislature and judiciary. The framers were well aware of the need to preserve liberty while establishing order with the new Constitution. United Kingdom. The United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, commonly known as the United Kingdom, is a sovereign state located off the northwestern coast of continental Europe. The country includes the island of Great Britain, the northeastern part of the island of Ireland and many smaller islands. The United Kingdom's form of government is a constitutional monarchy with a parliamentary system. It consists of 4 countries, England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. Main features of its constitution are as follows. The United Kingdom is a unitary set of government, as opposed to a federal state. The legislature is bicameral in nature. The judiciary is independent. The Constitution is not written in the sense of having a single document defining the powers of government and rights of individuals. Nevertheless, many sources of constitutional law are written in these together with the non-legal rules make up the British Constitution. The Constitution is flexible and based on continuity of development. In the absence of a written constitution having the status of fundamental or higher law, the concept of parliamentary sovereignty or legislative supremacy represents the cornerstone of the Constitution. There is no strict separation of powers between the executive, legislature and judiciary, although a separation of functions exists and the concept retains importance under the Constitution. France is a unitary semi-presidential republic located mostly in Western Europe. The current Constitution of France was adopted on the 4th of October 1958. It is typically called the Constitution of the Fifth Republic and replaced that of the Fourth Republic dating from 1946. Since then the Constitution has been amended 18 times, most recently in 2008. Salient features of its Constitution are given as under. The preamble of the Constitution recalls the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen from 1789 and establishes France as a secular and democratic country, deriving its sovereignty from the people. It provides for the election of the President and the Parliament, the selection of the government and the powers of each and the relations between them. It ensures judicial authority and creates a high court for judging the president, a constitutional council and an economic and social council. It was designed to create a politically strong president. Black circle. It enables the ratification of international treaties and those associated with the European Union. The Constitution also sets out methods for its own amendment either by referendum or through a parliamentary process with presidential consent. Russia. Russia is a federal semi-presidential republic, comprising 83 federal subjects. Salient features of its constitution are given as under. The Russian constitution is based on world standards for human rights and basic principles of democratic state building such as ideological neutrality of the state, political pluralism, competitive elections and separation of powers. The Constitution establishes a semi-presidential system resembling the French system but with stronger executive power due to increased independence of the president in comparison to the French model. Constitutional framework. 43. The President of the Russian Federation holds primary power in the Russian political system. The President, who is elected for a 6-year term, following the 2008 amendments to the Constitution, is the head of state and the Supreme Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Russian Federation. The Constitution prescribes that the government of Russia is the executive branch of state power and consists of a prime minister, chairman of the government, deputy prime ministers and federal ministers and their ministries and departments. The legislature's innate checks and balances are reflected in the ability of the Federal Council to examine and subsequently revise or reject legislation passed by the Duma. The Russian Constitution provides for a constitutional court, a Supreme Court of arbitration and for the development of various lower courts. In contrast, the Constitution withholds several areas of traditional court jurisdiction from the court and gives them to the President. Germany. Germany is a federal parliamentary republic in Western Central Europe. The country consists of 16 states. Salient features of its constitution are given as under. The basic law for the Federal Republic of Germany is the Constitution of Germany. It was approved on the 8th of May 1949 and with the signature of the Western Allies of Second World War on the 12th of May, it came into effect on the 23rd of May 1949. The basic rights are fundamental to the basic law, in contrast to the Weimar Constitution, which listed them merely as state objectives. The basic law established Germany as a parliamentary democracy with separation of powers into executive, legislative and judicial branches. Black circle. The executive branch consists of the largely ceremonial federal president as head of state and the federal chancellor as the head of government, who is generally the leader of the largest grouping in the Bundestag. The legislative branch is represented by the Bundestag, elected directly through a mixture of proportional representation and direct mandates. The judicial branch is headed by the Federal Constitutional Court, which oversees the constitutionality of laws. Basic law may be amended by an absolute two-thirds road majority of the Bundestag along with a simple two-thirds road majority of the Bundesrat. Germany has switched between confederal, federal and unitary rule since the German Confederation was founded in 1815. The current Germany is a federal system of states. Japan. Japan is a constitutional monarchy where the power of the emperor is very limited. As a ceremonial figurehead, it is defined by the constitution as the symbol of the state and of the unity of the people. Its constitution are as follows. Salient features of The Constitution provides for a parliamentary system of government and guarantees certain fundamental rights. The Constitution, also known as the post-war Constitution, which is most characteristic and famous for the renunciation of the right to wage war contained in Article 9 and to a lesser extent, the provision for de jure popular sovereignty in conjunction with the monarchy. It is a rigid document and no subsequent amendment has been made to it since its adoption. Legislative authority is vested in a bicameral national diet, and whereas previously the upper house had consisted of members of the nobility, the new constitution provided that both chambers be directly elected. Executive authority is exercised by a prime minister and cabinet is answerable to the legislature, while the judiciary is headed by a Supreme Court. China. The Fourth Constitution of the People's Republic of China was adopted in 1982. It vests all national legislative power in the hands of the National People's Congress and its Standing Committee. The State Council and its Standing Committee are made. '44. General Studies, Mains, Paper 2. India. The Constitution of India was framed by the Constituent Assembly set up in 1946 under the provisions of Cabinet Mission Plan. Dr. Rajendra Prasad was the President of Constituent Assembly and Dr. B.R. Ambedkar was the chairman of the 7-member drafting committee which drafted the Constitution. The Indian Constitution is the lengthiest and most detailed written constitution in the world. Though most of the features of our Constitution are substantially borrowed from others, the framers gathered the best features of each of the existing constitutions and modified them according to the existing needs and conditions of the country. The preamble of the Constitution declares India a sovereign, socialist, secular and democratic republic. It highlights justice, liberty, equality and fraternity as objectives of the Constitution. The Constitution of India consists of a preamble, 22 parts and 12 schedules. Although it is federal in nature, it has a strong unitary bias. Responsible for executive role rather than enacting the laws. This basic division of power is also specified for each of the territorial divisions: Peace, province, country and so forth, with the provision in each instance that the latitude available to authorities is limited to that specified by law. Some of the other salient features of the Constitution of China are as under. Universal adult suffrage to all citizens above 18 years to choose People's Congress members up to the country level. Actual decision-making authority in China resides in the state's executive organs and in the CCP, Chinese Community Party. At the national level, the top government executive organ is the State Council, which is led by the Premier. The distribution of powers among the various organs at the top of the CCP are the Standing Committee of the Political Bureau, Politburo. The Political Bureau itself and the Secretariat has varied considerably. Parts of Indian Constitution. The articles of the Constitution are grouped together into the following parts: Part 1, Union and its territory. Part Citizenship. Part 11, Part 12. Relations between Union and the States. Finance, property, contracts and suits, trade, commerce and intercourse within the territory of India. Part 1, Fundamental Rights. Part ZIL. Part 14, Services under the Union and the States. Part 4, Directive Principles of State Policy. Part EVA, Fundamental Duties, 42nd Amendment Act 1976. Part XIVA, Tribunals, 42nd Amendment Act, 1976. Part 15. Elections. Part 5, the Union. Part 5, the States. Part 16, Special Provisions relating to certain classes. Part 7, States in the B part of the schedule. Part 17, Languages. Repealed by 7th Amendment Act 1956. Part VIL, the Union Territories. Part 9, the Panchayats. Part IXA, the Municipalities, 74th Amendment Act, 1992. Part 18, Emergency Provisions. Part 19, Miscellaneous. Part 20, Amendment of the Constitution. Part XB, the Cooperative Societies, 97th Amendment Act, 2011. Part 21, Temporary, Transitional and Special Provisions. Part 10. The Scheduled and Tribal Areas. Part 22, Short Title, Commencement, Authoritative Text in Hindi and Repeals. Constitutional Framework. 45. Sources. Features. South Africa. Procedure of Arendaman. Election of members of Rajya Sabha. Canada. Borrowed features. Of Indian Constitution. Indian Constitution has assimilated various features from other countries into its domain, which imparts it a special character. Following are the borrowed features of the Constitution. Scheme of federation with a strong center, distribution of powers between center and the states. Residuary powers with the center. Appointment of state governors by the center. Ireland. Black circle concept of directive principles of state policy. Method of election of president. Black circle nomination of members in the Rajya Sabha by the president. Idea of republic and ideals of liberty, equality and fraternity in the preamble. France. Comparison of Indian Constitution. Written Constitution. A written constitution is a formal document defining the nature of the constitutional settlement, the rules that govern the political system and the rights of citizens and governments in a codified form. Comparison of written Constitution of India with other countries is given below. Sources. Features. UK. President as a nominal head. Cabinet system of ministers. Post of Prime Minister. Parliamentary type of government. Bicameral parliament. Lower house more powerful. Council of Ministers responsible to Lower House Speaker in Lok Sabha. Rule of law. Single citizenship prerogative writs. U.S. Written Constitution. Executive head of state known as President, and he is being the Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces. Vice President as the ex officio Chairman of Rajya Sabha. Fundamental Rights Supreme Court. Provision of states, independence of judiciary and judicial review. Preamble. Removal of Supreme Court and High Court judges. USSR. Fundamental Duties 5-Year Plan. Ideal of justice, social, economic and political, in the preamble. Australia. Concurrent list. Language of the preamble. Provision regarding trade, commerce, and intercourse joint sitting of 2 houses of parliament. Law on which the Supreme Court. Function, i.e. procedure established by law. India, it has written and longest known constitution. USA, it has written constitution which is a product of 1787 constitutional document and subsequent amendments, the congressional statutes, executive orders, judicial interpretations and the political conventions. Great Britain, its constitution is unwritten. Only small portion of British constitution is covered by written documents. The British Constitution is an evolved one and not enacted one. Various sources of British Constitution are conventions, great charters, statutes, common law, legal commentaries. France. Since French Revolution, France has changed its constitution quite often. The present French Constitution, which established the Fifth Republic, is a written constitution. Japan. Germany. Suspension of fundamental rights. During the emergency, Japan, the present Constitution of Japan became operative in 1947. It is also a written constitution. (46) General Studies, Mains, Paper 2. Flexibility or rigidity. A flexible constitution is one that can be changed by ordinary lawmaking process, and the one which requires a special procedure for amendment is called NGID. Comparison of flexibility or rigidity of Indian Constitution with other countries is given below. India. The Constitution of India is more flexible than rigid. It is only in cases of amendment of some provisions of the Constitution that requires ratification by state legislatures, and even then legislation by half of the states would suffice. The rest of the Constitution could be amended by a special majority by Union Parliament. USA. It has a rigid constitution. It can be amended by the Congress by means of a special process provided by the Constitution for that purpose, where a special majority of 3/4 plus ratification by 3/4 of the states is required. Britain. It has flexible constitution. It requires no special procedure for its amendment and can be amended by the Parliament in the same manner as ordinary laws are made. France. It has rigid constitution and needs special procedures. 60% majority votes in both the House of Parliament is needed. Alternatively, President can call a national referendum on constitutional amendment. Japan. It has rigid constitution and requires special process. The amendment shall be initiated by the Diet. Such a proposal must be passed by a majority of 2/3 vote of its membership. After that, it is submitted to the people for ratification at a special referendum or special election. Germany, it has rigid constitution. Article 79 states the basic law may be amended by an absolute two-thirds road majority of the Bundestag along with a simple two-thirds road majority of the Bundesrat, excluding amendment of those areas defined by the Eternity Clause. Unitary or federal. Federalism is a system of government in which sovereignty is constitutionally divided between a central governing authority and constituent political units. Unitary system is governed constitutionally as one single unit with one constitutionally created legislature. Comparison of unitary or federal constitution of India with other countries is given below. India, it is federal system with unitary bias. Though normally the system of government is federal, the Constitution enables the federation to transform itself into unitary state in emergencies. Federal features such as division of power, written constitution, supremacy of constitution, rigid constitution, independent judiciary, bicameralism, etc. are some of its core features. Some non-federal features are single constitution. Constitution has made center very strong by vesting more powers in it, such as governor is appointed by president, parliament can change the territories, borders and names of states by simple majority. Article 3. Black circle constitution is more flexible than rigid. Single citizenship. Single integrated judicial system. USA, it is a federal state. The Constitution provides for division of power between central government and state government. Residuary powers are vested in the states. Each state has its own constitution, elected legislature, governor and Supreme Court. Great Britain, it is a unitary state and all powers are vested in a single supreme central government. The local governments are created only for administrative convenience and they derive their authority from central government, which can also abolish them altogether at any time. France, it is a unitary state. The local government are created and abolished by central government only for administrative convenience. Japan, Japanese constitution provides for a unitary state. Type of government. India, the Constitution of India provides for a parliamentary form of government both at the center and in states. The parliamentary system of government is largely based on the British parliamentary system.